Today was just an awful day for the Denver Broncos and for Tim Patrick, a guy who everyone loves, from coaches to players to fans to media. Tim Patrick is so loved in Broncos country. In nearly a year, exactly a year since he went down last year with a torn ACL, it appears Tim has suffered another season-ending injury, tearing his left Achilles today. Just absolutely brutal, Henry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, it's terrible for Tim, obviously. It's terrible for the Broncos, obviously. And, I mean, the complexion of the season changes when you lose Tim Patrick. And, might as well say it, KJ Hamler's also gone. What was he going to provide this year? I think he and Marvin Mims were probably going to compete. I know other people were lower on KJ, but for a minute there, I was like, oh, okay, well, at least you have a chance KJ can step up and be a fourth receiver, but he has the heart condition, and he was waived with the non-football illness, and now what was once the Broncos' deepest position, arguably, who's even making the team at this point?
I mean, took two massive blows. One really massive blow. And then just depending on the role you thought for KJ this year, I haven't been counting on KJ for a couple of years. So this was like, KJ would have been the cherry on top. If this receiver room would have come out and had a really good year, KJ would have been the sweetest cherry on top to all of it. And now, as of now, you don't have the option for that. We're going to dive into KJ and exactly what this means, because he might not be done with the Broncos, but he also might. We're going to dive into that. But you talked about what this means. Tim going out, what this means for the Broncos offense. When he got injured last year, there was two kind of thoughts. Well, Tim's your third receiver. You should kind of be able to make it over the hump without your third receiver. And then there was another one where, man, he's the heart and soul of this receiver room. He's the heart and soul of this offense. With Tim Patrick, how are you going to replace that? And then the Broncos offense struggled more than anyone could have ever imagined. Not all of that was because of Tim's absence, but damn, it would have been nice to have him on Monday Night Football against Seattle week 1. It would have been nice to have him when Jerry Jeudy goes out and misses a couple of games. It would have been so nice to have Tim Patrick. And now for a second straight season, you're likely not going to have him. After practice, Sean Payton said that Tim Patrick, they were looking at his left Achilles. Adam Schefter has reported that it's believed that he did tear his left Achilles.
Which is what was basically said.
Right.
Which is kind of, yeah.
It's pretty safe to say that it looks like the worst case scenario is probably going to unfold here with Tim Patrick, especially with Adam Schefter putting that out there. And Henry, only 3,000 fans were at practice today. Only a handful of media were at practice today. And I'm going to need you to pull up the video. We were not allowed to take videos at this time of the injury, but fans are out there. And if you look, here's what happened. It was a non-contact injury. Just keep letting it roll you here. It was a non-contact injury. And we just think it's, this video's out here, and we wanted to give fans the most information that they can have. So we wanted to play this video. And as you see, Tim's really he's doing kind of a small wheel route and starting to break up toward the field. And what looks like he just slips initially, but then it's what happened right after this video. You can see him going up, reaching for his helmet. He immediately takes off his helmet and throws it across the field. And then he goes and takes his gloves off, throws them, and you can even hear like a little scream that he has. And to me, Tim knew right away. Tim, with an Achilles, a lot of the times, there's a pop, and I think Tim just knew right away that he was done. Then Courtland Sutton and Russell Wilson immediately ran over to him, and as brutal as it is, practice just continued. They moved about 10 yards further downfield. Russ and Courtland stayed with Tim. They brought a cart around. Tim got on the cart, took him to the locker room, and there's about 10 yards that you have to get to from the cart to inside the building. Tim took crutches from there, and it was there was really no hope, seemingly. Once he went down, you knew it was just probably going to be the worst case.
Yeah. I mean, there just aren't a lot of things that can be. When you can't stand on it, when it just gives out when you're cutting, it is what it is. And Sean Payton was in no way hopeful.
No.
And we all saw the same thing. It's just not a good situation, and that's a massive blow for the Broncos. Just a massive blow for the Broncos. I mean, we've seen it these past few days. Tim Patrick was cooking between the numbers. Like, they were sitting him down the middle. They were running him little drags. They were running him a little bit deeper, but still just those in-breaking routes. Especially in a Sean Payton offense, that stuff is so important. I mean, everybody thinks of Michael Thomas. You know, he gets made fun of for only running slants and whatever. But that's because a lot of what Sean Payton wanted to do with the Saints was just get guys 3, 4, 5 yards downfield, get them the ball, and keep moving. Just keep moving, stay on time. And when the defense screws up, like Saturday when Damari decided he was taking the receiver instead of dropping back into his zone to take the running back up the sideline, bang, there's your big play. And that's what it's all built on, is just hit the underneath, and then maybe something will open up deep. Tim Patrick has been that underneath guy for the entirety of this training camp. And that's it. And we knew that coming in too.
Well, and what is Tim Patrick? What has he been for the Broncos when he's been healthy? He's been Mr. Reliable.
Yep.
And he was the guy, even if he was going to be the Broncos' third receiver this year, he was still going to be the guy that Russell Wilson and Sean Payton looked for on 3rd and 6 when you needed a catch. He was going to be that guy. And like you said, he has the ability to work deep, short, over the middle, outside. And so it's just such a blow. And second year in a row that Tim Patrick's going to miss. He signed his extension just 6 games before last year started. So he has not played a full season since he got his contract. And you know what? It's a massive bummer for the Broncos, but I'm really happy that Tim got his money before this.
Yeah.
Because that's a big reason why you do take a little bit of a hometown discount in order to sign early, so that when something like this does happen, and you never want to see this happen to a player, not just one season-ending injury, but 2 season-ending injuries, you never want to see that, but at least he got paid. So on a personal note, thank goodness for Tim. But you could see right when he went down just how devastating this was. Sean talked about it after. Sean's only been here for a couple of months, and he said you can tell how much the locker room loves him, how much he's the heart and soul of this receiver room. Pat Surtain talked about it. Josie Jewell talked about it. So this is a blow on the field. It's also a blow off the field. It's a blow in terms of leadership on the offensive side of the ball. We talk about dogs, Henry, and a lot of the time when you talk about dogs, you're talking about the defensive side. This team has so few dogs compared to that 2015 team.
Yep.
Tim was one of them.
Yep.
Tim was not afraid to, whether it was on the field being a dog, about just being a great blocker, or then even getting in people's face when they need to hear it on their own team. Tim was not afraid to be that guy. So as many people in the comments are expressing, just a very sad day, a bummer day. And Henry, you keep saying this is big for the Broncos offense. How big?
I mean, massive. I mean, that's, in a lot of ways, he was supposed to be the guy who keeps the offense on time. Like the running game was supposed to just be part of that engine. You know, Jerry Jeudy is not a short route underneath guy. You want him running deep. You want him running the deep overs, the corners. You know, Cortland Sutton, we don't know who he is at this point. You know, he used to just be the deep guy. Now he probably steps into more of this underneath role. Hasn't had the hands that Tim has had. Like, there just isn't an obvious replacement. I mean, I think the closest thing, I guess, Marcus Callaway. You look to him to step into that role, but Marcus Callaway has one season where he's kind of put things together, and no others in his career. And that one season still didn't do what Tim Patrick did in his 2 seasons where he was a big part of the offense. So you still expect a pretty significant downgrade. And the other thing, very, very happy for Tim that he got his money, obviously, and feel super bad for him. But I do think that in general, people, you should feel bad for guys who get hurt. You should be happy for guys who get money. But there's a lot of the time, you know, even with the KJ Hamler stuff, there's a lot of disdain toward KJ when there happens to be more, oh no, we love Tim. And there's reasons for that. There's production in the past and those sorts of things. You know, Juwan James had like this sitting out COVID thing, and there were some effort things. But the way that you feel about Tim right now, whenever somebody goes through something like this, that's a good place to start with your feelings. And it's nice to see for Tim, but it is kind of a reminder that, you know, some players don't get treated this way.
No,
it's good that Tim does.
Of course not. And absolutely, I mean, when he was getting carted off, of course, there was a pretty loud applause. Maybe, honestly, the loudest applause we've heard from the 3,000 capped practices, 3,000 people capped practices that we've been able to hear.